Have you ever wondered if the world you see is truly what it seems?
What if your mind shapes a version of reality that's different from the truth, and what we call real is just an agreement we've all made? Let's explore this idea together and see where it leads. Let's begin with a simple question. What you see around you, does it match the world as it really is? Every day you wake up, look out the window, and take in the trees, the sky, the streets. It all feels solid, dependable. But what if that's not the full picture? Your brain isn't just recording the world, it's actively building a version of it, a private interpretation unique to you. Back in 2011, neuroscientist David Eagleman discovered that your brain processes only about 0.4% of the visual data your eyes take in. That's a minuscule fraction, meaning the rest is your mind filling in the gaps with its own assumptions. What you experience isn't the raw world. It's a story your brain constructs for you. Let's think about that for a moment. Consider the color of the walls in your room. You might see them as a soft yellow, but is that color an absolute truth? Your eyes capture light waves, perhaps around 570 nanometers, and your brain labels it based on past experiences. Without that mental filter, there's no yellow, no wall, just energy. Your mind turns into something recognizable. Eagleman's research used brain imaging to show how the visual cortex pieces together these tiny fragments, ignoring the vast amount of data it can't handle. It's as if your brain is an artist, sketching a landscape from a few brushstrokes, and you never see the empty canvas beneath. This process extends beyond sight to every sense you possess. That faint sound in the distance, your brain might decide it's a bird chirping, filtering out other noises to focus on what seems relevant. The feel of your chair beneath you, it's smooth or firm because your mind defines it that way, not because those qualities exist independently. Your perception is a custom-built world, shaped by your senses and experiences, distinct to you alone. My perception of that sound might differ from yours, or my sense of texture might not align perfectly. Philosophers like Immanuel Kant explored this idea in the 1700s, suggesting we only know the world as it appears to us, the phenomenal world, rather than the noumenal world, the reality that exists beyond our perception. From a spiritual perspective, this resonates with ideas in traditions like Advaita Vedanta, which describe this personal perception as Maya, an illusion that veils a deeper truth. Your mind might be crafting a world that feels like a dream, one you're encouraged to question and look beyond. If your perception is so individualized, so separate from any actual world, how can you be certain it reflects what's truly out there? Let's consider what happens when we bring these private worlds together. Now, if your perception is a personal creation, why does the world feel so unified? You look at a tree, I look at the same tree, and we both call it green and solid. This is what I mean by the consensus reality. The idea that what we consider real is a shared opinion, a story we've all accepted because our perceptions are similar enough. It's not that the tree is inherently green in some universal sense. It's that our brains, shaped by evolution, interpret light waves in a way that leads us to agree on green. Psychologist Donald Hoffman delved into this in 2019 with his research on perception and evolution. His computer simulations demonstrated that organisms don't evolve to see the truth, they evolve to see what's useful for survival. Pause on that for a second. Hoffman's models suggest that perceiving green on a tree or recognizing danger in a shadow helps us survive, so our brains align on that view. We don't perceive the actual world, we perceive a version that keeps us alive, and that shared perception becomes our reality. You and I both call the sky blue, the ground firm, because our sensory systems are wired in comparable ways. It's a practical understanding. If I point out a cliff and you see the same drop, we both step back. But is that cliff truly there, as we imagine it? Or is it just a shared perception we've turned into a fact? history offers a clear example of how this consensus shifts. Centuries ago, people agreed the Earth was flat, their senses and limited tools confirming what they observed. Then, with the advent of telescopes, the consensus changed to a round Earth. Philosopher Thomas Kuhn wrote in the 1960s that reality is a paradigm, a collective agreement that evolves when enough minds adjust their views. Today, we accept gravity as a given, but what if future discoveries show it's just another perception-based assumption? What happens when someone's perception doesn't fit the consensus? People with synesthesia might hear colors or taste sounds. Their reality differs from ours, so we label it as unusual. Color blindness or hallucinations reveal how perception varies, yet we pull these individuals into our shared narrative. Metaphysically, this prompts a question. Is our consensus reality a human invention, or does it reflect an actual world we're all approximating? Spiritually, Sufism views this shared perception as a collective dream, a shadow of a greater truth. Perhaps what we agree on isn't the ultimate reality, but a foundation we can build upon to discover more. Let's explore the boundaries of this idea. Your senses don't capture the entire world, indicating that your perception is only a portion of the picture. Your eyes perceive visible light, a narrow segment of the electromagnetic spectrum. You miss ultraviolet, which bees use to identify flower patterns, and infrared, which escapes your notice. Your ears detect sounds between 20 Hz and 20,000 Hz, but infrasound, below 20 Hz, goes unnoticed. In 1998, Tony Tandy and Richard Lawrence found that infrasound at 19 Hz caused unease in a lab, a frequency we feel but can't hear. Your mind doesn't register these elements, yet they exist in the world, revealing how much you're overlooking. Think about other species for a moment. Dogs pick up pheromones you can't smell, uncovering stories your nose misses. Bats hear ultrasonic calls, navigating a soundscape you're deaf to. Your perception is a limited window, a small slice of what's possible, yet you treat it as the complete truth. Neuroscience supports this. Studies of the parietal lobe show it filters out data deemed irrelevant, focusing on survival cues like a predator's movement, rather than subtle magnetic fields. Your reality is a sketch. With gaps, your mind fills with its own interpretations. This limitation carries philosophical significance. George Berkeley, in the 1700s, argued that we only know what our senses reveal. Beyond that, the world might not exist for us. He even proposed that reality depends on perception. To be is to be perceived. But if your senses miss so much, what else might be out there? Spiritually, Tibetan Buddhism sees these limits as an invitation to seek beyond the physical, those unseen frequencies, those hidden lights. Perhaps they suggest an actual world your mind hasn't yet accessed. Your perception's shortcomings might be the starting point for seeing something greater. Let's turn to the flaws in your perception. Illusions show how your mind bends the world in ways that can't be accurate. Consider the Muller-Lyer illusion. Two lines of equal length, but one appears longer with arrowheads at the ends. Psychologist Stanley Coren investigated this in 1971, finding that the brain misjudges due to depth cues, a survival mechanism for navigating 3D space. The lines are flat and equal, yet your mind sees a distortion you can't easily override, even with a ruler. Color illusions add to this puzzle. Place a gray square on a red background, and it looks greenish. Your brain adjusts for contrast, creating a hue that isn't present. These aren't mistakes, they're your mind at work, shaped by evolution to spot edges or threats quickly, like a snake in the grass. Psychologically, this efficiency saves lives, but it means your perception isn't the truth. It's a crafted version your mind presents to keep you safe. Philosophers have long grappled with this. Descartes, in the 1600s, questioned whether an evil demon might deceive his senses. Illusions like Muller-Lyer lend credence to that doubt. Your mind twists straight lines, shifts colors, constructing a world that may not match what's out there. Spiritually, this is a prompt for deeper inquiry. Gnostic traditions view the material world as a false construct, a challenge to see through. These illusions might be your mind's subtle hint. Look closer, question more, seek what lies beyond the distortion. Now, let's shift to an intriguing aspect. Your brain doesn't just respond to the world, it predicts it, shaping your perception before you experience it. In 2016, researchers like Soon and colleagues used fMRI scans to detect brain activity predicting decisions such as choosing left or right up to 10 seconds before you're consciously aware of the choice. Your brain is already at work, anticipating what's next, building your reality ahead of time. Picture a busy street. You recognize a friend's silhouette before their face comes into view. Your brain predicts, filling in the details with past data. It's not truly seeing, it's guessing, and that guess becomes your reality. Neuroscience indicates the prefrontal cortex runs these simulations, drawing on memory to create a smooth experience. It's practical. Why process every detail when you can assume? But this means your perception is pre-formed, a narrative your mind writes before the moment unfolds. This predictive power blurs the line between you and your surroundings. If your brain decides what you'll perceive, is your reality truly yours, or just a script it's playing out? Philosophically, this raises questions about free will and agency. Does your mind's guess override an actual world? Some see this as a connection to something larger. Mystics speak of intuition, a foresight linking to a higher plane. In Taoism, these predictions might align with a cosmic flow, a truth beyond the physical. But if it's all a guess, how can you trust your mind isn't leading you off course? So, we've uncovered these layers. Your perception is a private construct. Reality is a consensus we've agreed upon, and there are gaps and distortions at play. But what lies beyond this shared agreement? Is there an actual world, unfiltered and raw, waiting to be discovered? Science offers a suggestion. Meditation studies by Richard Davidson in 2004 found that experienced monks exhibited increased gamma waves, indicating altered perception. They described seeing beyond the physical, colors, energies, truths our everyday senses miss. This isn't just a scientific curiosity, it's a hint. What if the actual world exists outside our consensus, beyond what our minds can perceive? Philosophers like Kant argued, we can't know the thing in itself. We're confined to our mind's version. Metaphysically, some propose there's no actual world at all. Reality might be purely perception, a collective dream without a fixed base. Yet spirituality provides a path forward. Zen Buddhism encourages dropping the mind's constructs, to observe what remains when perception fades. Perhaps the revelation isn't just that your mind lies, it's that this lie might be all you know, or it could be a gateway to something profound. Mystics across traditions, Hindu, Christian, indigenous, suggest the true world isn't our agreed upon version, but what emerges when we let go. The decision is yours. Remain within the shared story or venture toward what might lie beyond. I'd like to hear from you. When has your perception misled you? Share your most surprising reality glitch in the comments. I'll explore your stories to see where the consensus bends. To close, is your mind lying to you? The shocking truth suggests your perception constructs a world apart from any actual reality, if one exists. And what we call real is merely a consensus of opinions, a shared story we've all embraced. From the brain's private creations to the collective illusion, from sensory limits to predictive shaping, your mind builds a reality that may not hold firm. Philosophers ponder if truth is reachable. Scientists highlight the gaps, and spiritual seekers guide us beyond. If this consensus is a fabrication, perhaps the real truth awaits outside it. Keep questioning, keep searching, subscribe if you're ready for more from Outside Perception. Your mind's been shaping a lie. Now go, seek what's true.